There's a moment, quiet but powerful, that comes at the end of every year. It's not loud. It doesn't come with fireworks or countdowns or confetti. It's the silence between the years, the pause before the next chapter begins. And in that silence, if you're brave enough to listen, you'll hear a question echo back at you. Why am I doing all of this? We get so good at doing, checking boxes, meeting deadlines. If running at full speed, we have jobs to protect, families to care for, goals to hit, reputations to uphold. We live like machines, efficient and exhausted. But every machine has a breaking point, and humans do too. And when we reach it, we don't crash. We drift. We drift away from meaning, from joy, from ourselves. The real tragedy isn't failure, it's success without meaning. It's climbing a ladder only to realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. So before another year starts, before we sprint into 2026, chasing more goals, it's time to come back to the beginning, to the root, to the why. Because when we lose our why, we lose our way. Purpose is not a bonus. It's not something you find after you've made it. Purpose is fuel. It's oxygen. When we know why we're doing something, we can endure almost anything. We can suffer through the grind. We can rise after failure, and we can inspire others in the process. But when we don't know our why, even success feels like failure in disguise. There's a difference between achievement and fulfillment. Achievement is getting what you want. Fulfillment is doing what you were made for. You can win every trophy, earn every dollar, and still feel empty if it's not aligned with your why. So the question isn't just, what do I want in 2026? The better question is, who do I want to be and why? Some people hear that and feel lost. Maybe you're one of them. Maybe you feel like you don't even remember what your why is anymore. That's okay, it's not gone. It's just buried. Buried under years of expectation, pressure, fear, and comparison. Your why isn't something you create, it's something you uncover. It's already inside you. You can begin by remembering what made you come alive as a child, before the job titles, before the deadlines, before the world told you to be realistic. What moved you? What were you curious about? What made you lose track of time? Ask yourself when you last felt deeply alive, not just happy, alive. When did you last feel like time and effort didn't matter because what you were doing was so deeply connected to who you are? That's your why trying to reach you. How often, if ever, do you find yourself waiting for someone to give you? We often think of purpose as a grand mission or some world-changing idea, but sometimes purpose is simple. It's showing up for people. It's building things that last. It's teaching, healing, creating, or leading. It's being a safe place in a chaotic world. Purpose isn't always loud, but it is always clear. And purpose isn't about impressing the world, it's about honoring your values. If you're chasing something just because it looks good on a resume or because other people expect it or because you're scared to stop, you've already traded your why for approval, and approval is a cheap substitute for meaning. Don't confuse productivity with purpose. You can be busy every single day and still feel empty. You can check off every task and feel no progress. But when your actions align with your why, even the hard days have meaning. Even the setbacks teach you something. Even the waiting seasons serve a purpose. So how do you reconnect with your why before 2026 begins? Start by slowing down. Clarity doesn't come in chaos, it comes in stillness. Take time away from noise, from screens, from schedules, from everyone else's opinions. And listen. Listen to what energizes you. Listen to what breaks your heart. Listen to the moments that make you say, this is what I was made to do. Talk to people who know you. Not just know your job title or your accomplishments, but know you. Ask them what they see when you're at your best. You'll start to notice a pattern. That pattern will point you back to your why. Reflect on your work, not just what you're doing, but how it feels. Does it energize you or drain you? Do you feel proud of the person you are becoming in the process? Do you feel connected to the outcome beyond the paycheck? If not, maybe 2026 isn't about setting bigger goals, maybe it's about setting more meaningful ones. And once you find your why, protect it. Fight for it. Because the world will always try to distract you with more money, more applause, more status, but none of those things can replace meaning. Don't measure your success by how busy your calendar is or how full your bank account is. And now, measure it by how alive you feel when you wake up in the morning. When you know your why, your life becomes magnetic. You attract the right people because people are drawn to authenticity. You make better decisions because you're not chasing approval, you're chasing alignment. You lead with heart because you're grounded in something deeper than fear or ego. We don't get to choose how long we live, but we do get to choose how we live. And a life lived with purpose, with a clear, rooted, unwavering why, that's a life worth remembering. So before 2026 begins, take time to return to your why. Not because it's trendy or inspiring or even easy, but because nothing truly matters more. Everything else, the success, the impact, the legacy, begins there. The future will always be uncertain, but when your purpose is clear, your path becomes possible. Let that be the foundation for everything you build next. We all talk about growth, about goals, about change. We set intentions, we make plans, we visualize success. But there's something we often forget. You cannot grow beyond the people you surround yourself with. Before 2026 begins, one of the most powerful things you can do, not flashy, not dramatic, but absolutely life-altering, is to audit your circle. That means looking closely at who is standing next to you as you build your future. Because whether we like it or not, our environment shapes us. The people we give our time to influence how we think, how we act, and how we see ourselves. It's not just about who you spend time with. It's about what you normalize by being around them. You normalize the language they use, you normalize the energy they bring, you normalize their habits, their thinking, and even their limitations. So ask yourself honestly, are the people in your life pulling you forward or quietly holding you back? Are you surrounded by people who challenge you, who support your evolution, who want to see you become the best version of yourself, even if it makes them uncomfortable? Or are you spending time with people who drain your energy, diminish your dreams, or make you doubt your potential? We've been told to be loyal, and we've been taught to stick around, but loyalty isn't an excuse to keep toxic people in your life. There is nothing noble about shrinking to make others feel more comfortable. There's nothing honorable about staying in circles that stunt your growth. And there's no rule that says you have to carry everyone with you just because they were there at the start. Some people were part of your past, but that doesn't mean they belong in your future. That's not bitterness, that's clarity. And it's not about judgment either, it's about alignment. When your vision grows, not everyone will come with you, and that's okay. Some people will outgrow you, you'll outgrow others. That's the rhythm of a growing life. People enter for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. The problem comes when we confuse which is which. There are people who drain you emotionally, and you think it's your job to fix them. They're friends who mock your ambition because your growth reminds them of their stagnation. There are coworkers who gossip more than they build, and you feel like staying silent is the cost of belonging. But you're not here to belong to dysfunction. You're here to become something more. And the truth is, most of us already know who those people are. We feel it. Our energy drops when they call. Our confidence fades when they speak. We walk away from conversations feeling smaller, more doubtful, more disconnected from our values. That's your intuition speaking. Don't ignore it. At the same time, look for the people who expand you. They're not always the loudest or the most successful or the most popular, but they believe in you even when you don't. They challenge you without demeaning you. They remind you of who you are on the days you forget. These are the people who ask you real questions, who are more interested in your heart than your image, who push you to be accountable, not perfect, who don't let you give up on yourself. They celebrate your wins and sit with you in your losses, and their presence makes you better. That's the kind of circle you deserve. And that's the kind of circle you should be building. Intentionally, because as you step into 2026, who you're around will influence every decision you make. You can't create a bold future while staying stuck in environments built around fear, negativity, or comfort. You don't need a big circle, you just need the right one. 5 people who push you forward are more powerful than 50 who keep you stuck. And you don't need to cut people off with bitterness or drama. Sometimes the most respectful thing you can do is create distance. You can love people from afar. You can wish them well without walking the same path. This also isn't just about other people, it's about you too. What kind of energy are you bringing into your circle? Are you encouraging others? Are you showing up consistently? Are you being honest, supportive, and growth-oriented yourself? We can't expect to attract powerful connections if we're not willing to be one. So part of auditing your circle is also auditing yourself. Being the kind of friend, partner, colleague, or leader that you wish you had. Becoming magnetic to the kind of people who inspire you. Relationships are mirrors. They reflect the stories we tell ourselves about our worth, our future, and what we think we deserve. So if you're surrounded by mediocrity, maybe it's time to ask, what have I been settling for and why? We teach people how to treat us by what we tolerate. We train the world how to interact with us by the standards we hold. And in 2026, your standards need to reflect your vision, not your past. Audit your circle. That means identifying who brings you clarity and who brings confusion. Who celebrates you sincerely and who competes silently. Who leans in when things get hard and who disappears when you're not convenient. Pay attention. And then act on what you find. Your energy is your most valuable currency. You can't keep spending it on people who leave you emotionally bankrupt. You only get one life. Don't waste it trying to fit into rooms you've already outgrown. So, as this year winds down and the next one prepares to begin, be courageous enough to take inventory. Make space for alignment. Surround yourself with people who see you, support you, and stretch you. And invest time so that you can support yourself and stretch you, because when your circle is strong, your direction becomes unstoppable. And that future you keep talking about, it doesn't start with a big break or a lucky moment. It starts right here with who's standing beside you. We spend so much of our lives avoiding fear. We hide it, bury it, distract ourselves from it, and name it something else so we don't have to face it. But fear doesn't disappear when we ignore it. It grows in the shadows. It tightens its grip. And slowly, almost silently, it begins to shape our lives. Before 2026 begins, I'm not asking you to conquer every fear. That's unrealistic. But what if you could take ownership of just one fear, one story that's been holding you back, one lie you've believed for too long, just one. Most people think fear is the enemy, but fear, when acknowledged, can be a guide. It shows us where we're stuck. It shows us what we care about. It reveals the places where growth is waiting on the other side. Fear only wins when it stays unspoken. But the moment we bring it into the light, its power begins to break. You already know what it is. It's that one thing you keep avoiding. Maybe it's the fear of failure, of starting over, of disappointing people. Maybe it's the fear of being seen, of being judged, of not being good enough. Maybe it's the fear of letting go, of a person, a job, a version of yourself you've outgrown. We all have one. And the irony is that we often build our entire lives around avoiding that fear. We stay in the safe job because we fear the unknown. We silence ourselves in rooms because we fear rejection. We don't apply, don't ask, don't show up fully, not because we aren't capable, but because we're scared of what might happen if we do. But here's the truth. Fear is not a stop sign. It's a signal. It's telling you that something matters, that there's something worth risking, that there's something on the other side worth stepping into. Fear is not a weakness. It's a clue. We grow when we stop running and start listening. What is this fear really trying to protect me from? What story am I telling myself about what will happen if I face it? And what would happen if that story isn't true? Because most of our fears are built on assumptions, not facts. We assume we'll fail, that we'll be embarrassed, that people will leave, that we'll fall apart. But fear rarely tells the full truth. It exaggerates, it distorts, it keeps us small by convincing us that safety is more important than growth. But staying safe isn't the same as living. Living requires risk. It requires vulnerability. It requires us to step into the places that scare us and do it anyway, not because we're fearless, but because we're willing. Because what we want matters more than what we fear. When you take ownership of one fear, just one, something powerful happens. You stop and reclaim agency. You stop being a victim of circumstance and start becoming the author of your story. You stop waiting for confidence and start building it. Confidence doesn't come first. Courage does. And courage is not the absence of fear. It's the choice to move forward in spite of it. Think about where you are today. How much of your life is being designed around avoiding discomfort? How many things have you said no to, not because they weren't right, but because they were scary? And how much possibility have you unknowingly blocked because fear was steering the wheel? We don't change our lives by avoiding fear. We change them by choosing one thing we've been scared to face and doing it scared. That's it. One step, one conversation, one risk, one truth. You don't need a 10-step plan. You need a moment of honesty followed by a moment of courage. And here's what no one tells you. When you do face that fear, even in a small way, you change, you grow. Not just because of what happens externally, but because you begin to see yourself differently. You realize you're stronger than you thought, that you can do hard things. That fear doesn't have to be the boss anymore. It's not about the outcome. It's about ownership. When you take back ownership of your fear, you stop letting it lead your decisions. You take control of your story. And that kind of ownership changes everything. You communicate differently. You lead differently. You show up differently in every area of your life. You become magnetic. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real. Because people can feel when someone is living from courage instead of fear. It's inspiring. It's rare. It creates trust, and it opens the door for others to do the same. This is how change happens. One person choosing to stop running. One person choosing to tell the truth. One person choosing to feel the fear and keep going. And that person can be you. Not next year, not when it's convenient, not when you feel ready, but now. Because there's no such thing as ready. There's just the moment. You decide to stop letting fear win. So what's the fear that's been running the show? Say it out loud. Write it down. Name it. Because when you name it, you can confront it. And when you confront it, you can move through it. You don't have to change everything. You just have to change one thing. Choose one fear before 2026. Look it in the eye and take the first small, quiet, brave step. That's where the future begins. Not in the absence of fear, but in the decision to stop letting it hold the pen. Your future isn't waiting on a new year. It's waiting on a new level of courage. One step, one fear, one decision. That's all it takes to begin. There's something we all carry that weighs more than we admit. It's not in our hands, it's not in our calendars or in our responsibilities. It lives quietly inside us, heavy and unspoken. It's the words we haven't said. Before this year ends, before you race into the next one with your vision board and goals and optimism, I want to invite you to pause and ask yourself, what have I left unsaid? Because no matter how productive you are, no matter how ambitious or focused or driven you may be, the words you don't say often carry more power than the ones you do. The conversations we avoid become barriers between us and the people we care about. The apologies we postpone, the gratitude we hold back, the boundaries we fear to speak, the forgiveness we resist, they all cost us something. And over time, that cost adds up. We think silence is safer. We think we'll say it later, when things calm down, when it's more convenient, when the moment feels right. But life doesn't wait for the perfect moment. Life moves. And sometimes, later never comes. Saying the unsaid doesn't mean creating conflict. It means creating clarity. It means honoring the truth. Not just the truth we tell others, but the truth we carry within ourselves. Because when we silence what's true for us, we slowly begin to lose connection with people, with purpose, and with peace. It might be something simple. Maybe you need to say thank you. Really say it. Maybe someone showed up for you during a difficult season and you never told them how much it meant. Don't assume they know. Say it. Maybe someone hurt you and you've been carrying that pain silently, thinking that avoiding the conversation is easier than facing it. But silence doesn't heal pain, it hides it. And hidden pain eventually hardens. Maybe you need to apologize, not because you were entirely wrong, but because you value the relationship more than your ego. There is nothing weak about going first. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's strength. It's leadership. It's the willingness to be human in a world that constantly tells us to be polished. Or maybe, and this might be the hardest one, you need to speak a boundary. Maybe someone you care about has crossed a line and you've stayed silent to keep the peace. But peace isn't silence. Peace is honesty. Peace is being able to tell the truth without fear of losing love. The people meant for your life will honor your honesty. And the ones who don't were never really listening in the first place. When we don't say what needs to be said, we live in the land of assumption. We assume people know how we feel. We assume they should just understand. But people aren't mind readers. They experience us only through the words we speak and the actions we take. And if we're too afraid to speak, we'll find ourselves trapped in relationships that look fine on the surface, but feel hollow underneath. Saying the unsaid isn't just for others, it's for you. Because when you speak your truth, you stop carrying it alone. You stop rehearsing the argument in your head. You stop holding on to what was never meant to be buried. And you begin to heal. You also begin to lead. The most powerful leaders aren't the ones who talk the most. They're the ones who create space for real conversations. The ones who say what no one else is willing to say. With grace, with courage, and with purpose. They speak truth, not to hurt, but to connect. Not to divide, but to build something better. That kind of leadership starts in your personal life. It starts in your home, in your friendships, in the mirror. Are there things you've been meaning to say that you just haven't? Things you've stuffed down, hoping they'd go away? They won't. Not until you give them air. Not until you have the courage to open your mouth and let them out. But here's the hard part. You won't always control how it lands. You can speak with love and still be misunderstood. You can be honest and still face discomfort. You can be clear and still watch people walk away. But the goal of speaking the unsaid isn't control. It's clarity. It's integrity. It's freedom. And freedom doesn't come from being liked. It comes from being known. Truly known. You don't have to say it perfectly. You just have to say it. Imperfect truth is always better than polished silence. Because even if your voice shakes, even if the words are messy, you will feel something shift inside you. That's the sound of alignment. That's the sound of returning to who you really are. There is someone right now who needs to hear from you. Someone who needs to hear, I forgive you, or I'm sorry, or I miss you, or I can't keep doing this, or you matter to me, or even I love you. Don't let pride or fear or the illusion of perfect timing keep you from saying it. But don't let pride or fear or the illusion of perfect timing keep you from saying it. This moment right now, this is your chance. Before the year ends, before 2026 begins, not everything will be fixed by one conversation, but almost everything meaningful begins with one. And if you're still unsure, ask yourself this: if I only had one more week to live, what would I say? Who would I call? What truth would I regret not speaking? Then go and say it, because the truth is, none of us are guaranteed more time, but we are guaranteed this moment. And what we choose to do with it says everything about who we are becoming. The words you've been afraid to say might just be the words someone else is desperate to hear. Say the unsaid, not later, now, before the calendar flips, before the opportunity fades, before the silence becomes permanent. speak your truth, and set yourself free. Most people don't end up where they want to be because they didn't decide where they wanted to go. They didn't fail because they weren't talented or smart or passionate. They simply drifted. Year after year, they went with the current, responding to life, reacting to pressure, saying yes to what was urgent, and putting off what really mattered. And the truth is, no one drifts their way into purpose. No one accidentally wakes up fulfilled. Fulfillment requires intention. As 2025 comes to a close, you have a choice. You can continue living by default, or you can begin to live by design. You can hope things work out, or you can build something that actually reflects who you are and what matters to you. One way leads to regret. The other leads to meaning. But designing your life doesn't start with a big revelation. It doesn't require some massive life change or dramatic breakthrough. It starts with something much simpler: paying attention. Paying attention to what energizes you, what drains you, what you tolerate, what you dream about in quiet moments. Your future isn't hiding. It's waiting in the small choices you keep putting off. We've been taught to chase results. More income, more validation, more recognition, but no one tells us to chase alignment. And alignment is where real power lives, because when your daily actions match your deepest values, you stop fighting yourself. You stop second-guessing every decision. You stop needing external motivation, because everything you're doing is grounded in something internal and true. If you're waking up tired every day, dreading Monday, constantly fantasizing about an escape plan, that's not laziness, that's misalignment. And you can't build a future you love on top of a foundation that exhausts you. The mistake we make is waiting for a new year to change us. We think the calendar will flip and suddenly everything will shift. It won't. January 1st is just another day unless you give it meaning, unless you walk into it with clarity, with a vision, with the kind of awareness that says, I'm not here to repeat another year, I'm here to create a new one. Creating that kind of year means getting clear on what matters, not to the world, not to social media, not to your peers, but to you. What do you actually want your life to feel like? Not just look like, feel like. Because we've all chased the version of success that looks good and still felt empty. That's what happens when we follow someone else's blueprint. That's what happens when we drift. You want to design your future? Start by defining your version of success, not the version you inherited, not the one you were conditioned to believe. Yours. Maybe it's simplicity, maybe it's freedom, maybe it's deep relationships or meaningful work, maybe it's creativity or contribution or legacy, whatever it is, own it. Let that become your compass. And then build around it. Build your habits around it. Build your habits around it. Build your calendar around it. Build your commitments and boundaries and decisions around it. Because a vision without structure is just a wish. Hope is a beautiful thing, but it's not a strategy. You don't get the life you want just because you're a good person or because you've been through enough. You get it when you decide it's worth designing. And then you do the work. That doesn't mean you'll always know exactly what to do. But clarity doesn't mean having all the answers. It means knowing the direction. It means knowing what to say yes to, and more importantly, what to say no to. If everything matters, nothing does. Part of designing your future is giving yourself permission to stop being everything for everyone. You weren't meant to live exhausted. And yes, it will require change. It will require discomfort. Anytime you choose to live by design instead of default, you'll have to let go of things. Patterns, people, identities that once felt safe. But comfort isn't the goal. Growth is. Meaning is. Impact is. And you don't get those things without leaving the shore. Think about where you were 5 years ago. Think about who you were. Now think about how fast those 5 years went by. That's how fast the next 5 will go. Time doesn't slow down. It's not waiting for you to feel ready. The question is, will the next 5 years be something that happens to you or something you build with intention? Because drifting doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing what's easy, doing what's expected, saying yes when you mean no, putting things off until later. But later is where dreams go to die. And if you're not careful, you'll wake up one day wondering how you ended up so far from where you meant to be. This moment, right now, is your wake-up call. Not to be perfect, Not to have it all figured out, but to start. To pay attention, to reflect, to choose, to imagine a different future and begin designing your way toward it. And design isn't about control. It's not about scripting every detail. It's about alignment. It's about creating enough clarity and structure that you're no longer living by accident. It's about showing up on purpose. That's what changes everything. That's what makes life feel meaningful again. So before 2026 begins, ask yourself, am I drifting or am I designing? Am I following someone else's path or am I building my own? Am I waiting for life to change or am I willing to change how I live? You don't need a brand new identity. You need to return to what matters. Reconnect with your values, reclaim your time, realign your habits, and then move forward, even if it's messy, even if you're scared, even if you're not sure how it will all work out. Because the life you dream of is not waiting at the end of a perfectly planned path. It's built in the everyday choices you make, the conversations you have, the risks you take, the boundaries you set, the things you no longer settle for, you keep them in the bag of your mind. Day in, day out, the things you no longer settle for, that's what design looks like. That's what leadership looks like. That's what real, lasting change looks like. This is your time. Not next year. Not when it's easier. Now. Stop drifting. Start designing. And make the next chapter the one you'll never want to rewrite.